Hello everybody, Tracy Brown here, and I hope you're having an amazing day. We are going to talk about binging, our fears of binging, a little bit about what it's actually about, and then importantly, at least one thing you can do when that fear is revving up. So before we get started, I want to make sure that you are a couple announcements. I want to make sure that you know that all of these videos get uploaded to YouTube. So if you are in the need for help on any kind of topic, whether it's attuned eating, somatic work, body image stuff, practical stuff around eating and getting meals on the table, then please go over to my YouTube channel. It's Tracy Brown RD, and you can just type in and under my, like in a search, my name plus whatever topic you're looking for, and you should find what you're looking for. So let's get started. All right, so I have a lot, it's really interesting when we start this making peace with food journey, is that we're all like alternately excited and kind of terrified, because it's like we want to eat the food and we want to eat what we want to eat, or at least learn what we want to eat. But oftentimes, once we start eating, sometimes it can be scary, because the floodgates can open of like all that unmet need, or all the times you didn't let yourself have what you wanted, or you felt it was prohibited, or you get in trouble for it, whether it's your own internalized voice or the feeling that somebody's watching you and will judge you, or whatever it is, that gets scary. And sometimes that can flip something from like restricting to deprivation-driven eating or binging. And so in this video, we're going to talk a lot about what I see happen for people as they start eating, and they start to feel this rev up of like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? It's too much. And either that causes a true binge. Sometimes it's just a deprivation-driven binge. When I say just, not that it's any less disturbing or uncomfortable, it's just a little bit different. And I want to talk about the nuances of the difference here in a second. So whatever happens, whether it's from deprivation, if it's from actual food caloric restriction you've had going on for months or years, and or if it's just a full out like, nah, I get pretty well fed most of the time, this is actually a real full-on binge from feeling like, if I eat, and this is what I hear from people, if I eat what I need, I won't have my tool anymore, I won't have my binge, and I don't want you to take that away from me. And so that's more of what we're going to be talking about today, is that kind of fear of binging. Again, so I want to go back and review some stuff. I've talked about it in lots of different videos, that binging can somewhat be subjective, meaning like I don't necessarily categorize it in like how much calories you eat, even though I know diagnostically that's kind of what is done. It's more I look at the quality of like how we come to the table, what is going on in our systems, what we're thinking about, what we're afraid of, that determines like, is this just a binge from fear, anger, shame, whatever. Whether it's mental, emotional, or body-based feelings and sensations. And then sometimes this was the main, I'll be very transparent here. The main source of a lot of my binging back a long time ago was planning dieting in my head. I never followed, I went from a restrictive kind of eating disorder to more of a restrictive mindset. And that's what actually catapulted me into some of the binging. And so if you're in that case where it's like you're thinking I shouldn't eat certain foods, or I don't deserve it, or what will people think, or it's like I want to be free but I also want to weigh whatever X pounds less, or I want to be healthier, and you start restricting food when it's not coming from a supportive place, then that's what I went through, a 5-year spiral of deprivation-driven, binging. So that can cause your binging. And then somehow we get afraid, like, okay, if I eat the food I want, that causes the binging, so I can't eat that food again. And again, that's backwards. It's like, no, actually having full permission will soothe that fear of being deprived and not being able to reach out for what you want and take it in. That's what's going to cause the binging. So it's kind of like an override of like, well, screw you, I'm going to have what I want. And so it's really important to keep cleaning up those food rules and that deprivation stuff. So, and then the other part, whether maybe it's not for you mental, maybe you're just coming off of like, I've been restricting for a long time, and I have like a bingey kind of episode, like, you know, once a week. But if I look at it and I average it out, it's like, well, it's kind of like me getting my energy needs met anyway. So those are the three main kind of ways, which they all have nuances in them, that I see people in like different bingey kind of circumstances. So regardless of where that comes from, I just want to describe it all so you all can have a frame of like where you're coming from, and know that you're being heard. And if I'm missing something or I'm missing an experience, please let me know, and I will talk about it in another video. Okay, so let's go back to the fear. Is that when you have a fear of binging, you're pretty much setting up a nervous system response of like eating being dangerous, which sets you up actually for less attunement to what your body's needs are. And if you're in a fear response, your digestion is not going to be as flowing. Your perception of like what you need to be satisfied might be skewed, or what you think you can have to be safe would be skewed, which therefore can goes two different ways, right? But it all ends up the same place. It's either, okay, I'm going to restrict because I don't want to binge, which ends up as maybe binging anyway, or it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get fed again, and there comes the binge. So wherever you're coming from, I want you to think about what, basically, if I'm afraid of binging, instead of trying to override and white knuckle and push through that anyway, it's time to settle. And so I talked about this in another video. So again, about a year ago, it was summertime, I was at a coffee shop kind of video. If I can find it, you know, quickly, I'll link it below for sure. Maybe I'll have to come back around in a day or two. But I talked about using a ball, a physio ball. So you can always use a physio ball before and after your meals. Now I'm rocking right now because I want you to remember that this motion, this back and forth motion, there's up and down motion, start to, in a good way, stimulate your vagus nerve from like your bottom, your core up, which, you know, a lot of those nerves in your vagus below your diaphragm are unmyelated. All that means is that like they don't have like a very smooth way of you know, it's like almost like a super highway. It's like the super highway is more of like just a road that has some turns in it. It's not really a super highway. It's more like a winding road, let's say. And if you are in a fear response, and that's where a lot of that very primitive survival stuff is, you'll see like if you get kind of nervous or angry or you're shutting down, that is not going to be as responsive to what you need. And so that ball exercise can help like just wake up your vagus a little bit down there from like your bottom up, to help your body say, hey, we're here, we're present, 2000, whatever year you're watching this video, and get you just a little bit more present. So I talked about that in that one video a long time ago. And that's one exercise you could do when you're feeling kind of bingy and you know, the old response, the old autopilot response would be, hey, I need to go and restrict, or I need to like clamp down on my food, or I need to lock up my food, or I need to get out of the house because I can't control myself. Those are short-term solutions. They don't work with the physiology. And they don't work, it's almost like if you can work with your physiology up, you have a better chance of having more clarity with your brain and having more compassion around your emotions to work through what's happening. Okay? The other thing I want to offer, I'm going to give you a bonus. So I talked about that exercise in a different video. I'll post it below. Secondly, I want you to think about when it comes to like, I'm afraid to eat what I truly want because I won't be able to stop. That's what I often hear, and that's like my worst nightmare. I can't stop. What that fear from a body perspective, that sounds kind of mental, but it's actually a body perspective. You're really saying that like, I don't feel like I can control what I'm taking in or how much is in me. And I always, when people say anything, I'm always thinking, okay, how is the body speaking? I hear what you're saying, but how is the body speaking? And so a simple question you can ask yourself is like, you know, again, on your ball, I want to layer interventions now. So on your ball, it's important, and I'm rocking again, to like think about how you can soothe your system, is where in my body is feeling like that I don't have enough, or I'm afraid of too much. Where in my body? Where in my body? So I wouldn't get in your head, don't make a narrative about it, but just whatever pops up. So it could be your stomach's like this, or you don't feel anything, or there's a terror of not getting enough. Well, put your hand there, here, wherever, bounce on your ball, and just be with that. Okay? And if that feels like too much, not a problem. Go resource yourself to something really good and nourishing and positive, like the blue sky, or right now I'm turning my head to this side because I see two birds in their nest over here doing their family thing, and that feels nourishing to me. I got my dog. I don't know if you can see him. Yeah, here's Chuck hanging out. Hey, buddy. Yeah, he's here with me. That's nourishing. And then come back. And you might find that something starts to settle, or maybe you need to get up and do more bouncing or do more moving or do something a little bit more physical, like push against the wall. So anyway, I don't want to add too much to your repertoire today, but just be thinking differently about this fear of like, if I binge, this is like the worst thing ever. It's like, no, that's actually talking about, it's not the worst thing ever. Your body is speaking about what doesn't feel enough, what resources, whatever, because if we're restricting or binging or whatever, it's just a sign that we don't have a developed system within us of self-soothing in any kind of way. Not your fault. You know, this is just something that we learn in our early years, that just kind of the foundation is laid there. And if it's a little spotty, inconsistent, that's what we're going to see in our life. In certain areas of life, we're not able to help our bodies or help our minds or our emotions feel safety. I hope this video was helpful. Let me know if it was. I know it's a little bit more detailed and a little bit more maybe complex. Maybe it's things you haven't heard before. But, you know, there's only so much you can read. Again, you know that I pretty much do recovery a little different than most people, because I think that we need this, like, we've got to bring the body into it. If we want to be embodied and be fully done with disordered eating and diet culture, embodiment's there. We're not going to, like, teach our body to be okay or to be okay in our bodies just by head information alone and frankly navel gazing. So we've got to help our bodies know that right now we're okay enough. Thank you all so much for watching. This video will be uploaded in a little while, a couple days probably, or maybe today, I'm hoping. We'll see. But if this was nourishing for you, I appreciate you sharing that nourishment as well. So thank you so much, and I'll talk to you all real soon. Take care.